Hey everyone, welcome to today's brightly colored storybook style explainer. I am your host, but for today's journey, you can just think of me as your silly playground quizmaster. We're going to have some fun, play a few games, and honestly, most importantly, we are going to completely bust a massive myth about who actually gets to succeed in the world of business. So gather around, get ready to play along, and let's turn the pages on this myth together. Okay, let's dive into this with our very first pop quiz. To kind of set the stage here, let me tell you about a mentee named Cora. Cora looked around her at these wildly successful business families, the C's, the Tans, the Gokumways, and she totally convinced herself that to make it in business, you needed some kind of special inherited business blood. She genuinely thought her lack of a fancy surname meant she just wasn't cut out for the whole shebang. So, players, what do you really need to succeed? Is it A, magic genes, or B, hard work? Shout your answer at the screen. 3, 2, 1. Boom! If you guessed B, you are absolutely right. Hard work is the answer. Just like the punchline of our little comic strip reveals, success has absolutely zero, zilch, nada to do with bloodlines, surnames, or simply getting lucky. The whole idea of magic business genes is pure fiction. So, looking at this really brilliantly illustrates our core conflict today. On one hand, we have the lucky genes myth, this cartoonish idea that some people are just born with a golden business touch. But the reality, the true playing field is completely open to absolutely anyone. The price of admission is just a willingness to put in the immense sweat equity, and crucially, having the courage to learn from your inevitable slip-ups. To prove this, let's crack open our storybook to the epic fable of Mrs. Socorro Ramos, affectionately known as Nanay Coring. She built the massive national bookstore empire. Now, was it an overnight success powered by magic? Not even close. Her journey tells a very different reality. She and her husband faced devastating business setbacks during the Second World War. Heck, she never even graduated from college. Her massive success was built entirely, brick by brick, on hard work, sacrifice, unshakable faith, frugality, and absolute integrity. Literally no magic blood required. All right, let's test your knowledge again. Pop quiz number 2 coming right up. Let's say you're like our source author, Mommy Negosyo. She's a Tum, and both of her grandfathers were Chinese businessmen. Does this lineage mean she got a magical shortcut to instant business success? What do you think? Yell it out. 3, 2, 1. Nope, not even a little bit, actually. The punchline here is that even with 2 businessman grandfathers, she actually struggled for 4 whole decades. She fell deeply into debt, she felt like a complete failure, and the immense stress even led to a really rocky marriage. Having the supposed right background did not save her from the brutal realities of building a business. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the most fascinating part of her story revolves around the number 20. Over her 40 years of struggling, Mommy Negosyo actually opened and closed over 20 different businesses. I mean, wow, right? Every single one faced different challenges. But here is the secret. Those 20 massive mistakes weren't the end of her story. They were the actual stepping stones she used to learn, adapt, and eventually reach massive success. You literally have to fail to learn how to win. All right, time for our third and final historical pop quiz. Picture those early Chinese immigrants arriving in the Philippines. They couldn't own land, they couldn't be farmers. Many worked as poor, uneducated laborers hauling massive 80-kilo sacks of copra on their backs. So what happens when they get too old and frail to carry those massive sacks anymore? Any guesses? 2, 1. Yes, you got it. They became peddlers. They had to make way for younger laborers, so their pure instinct for survival kicked in. They adapted. They worked incredibly hard. They saved every single penny. They were unbelievably frugal. And slowly but surely, they grew from simple street peddlers into true, full-fledged business owners. When you trace this epic journey, it tells a story of pure survival, not lucky genetics. I mean, they fled China because of harsh history, corrupt leaders, terrible clayish soil, deadly floods, and starvation. They migrated just to send money back to feed their families. From fleeing disasters, to breaking their backs as laborers, to hustling as peddlers, to finally owning businesses. Their success was forged in the fire of absolute necessity. When we compare these eras, the difference is just staggering. Earlier generations faced incredibly harsh historical struggles that forced them into business just to stay alive. But today, most of us watching don't have to face those extreme conditions.
Because we are born here and now, you and I are standing on the exact same, equal playing field. This completely destroys the excuse that business is in the blood. It wasn't in the blood, it was in their circumstances.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an action plan for you. Since we busted the myth, let's look at 3 simple playground habits for beginners to start their own journey. Think of this as your beginner's toolkit for playground success. Number 1, shift your mindset. Number 2, plant your tree. And number 3, find your flock. Let's break these down. Habit number 1 starts with a fantastic quote from Jack Ma. If you have a different mindset, you will have a different outcome. It is so true. Changing your mindset is the actual practical secret to turning things around. When you stop believing in magic genes and start believing in your own capacity to learn and work hard, well, that is the exact moment you can start paying off debts little by little and actually building your future. Okay, habit number 2. Business is exactly like planting a tree. And let me tell you, there are absolutely no magic beans or magic seeds here. It requires the hard work, the daily sacrifice, and the patience of taking care of a sapling. Business is not for the faint-hearted. It means taking care of what you've planted no matter what, sometimes even working in your dreams while you sleep, all so that years down the line you can finally harvest the fruit. And finally, habit number 3, my absolute favorite, the playground social hack. You need to flock together. Here is a major secret. Business is actually in the environment you create for yourself. You need to go out to the playground and find mentors, guides, and like-minded friends who are on the exact same journey. You just cannot do this alone. So the crucial point is understanding why you need this business flock. Think about the realities here. People outside of business often think owners just have endless piles of money. They don't see the grueling, sleepless nights. When you're stressing out in the middle of the night about how you're going to pay your employees or your suppliers, you desperately need friends who actually understand those exact payroll worries. You need emotional support from people who have been there and done that. That is how you survive. And honestly, that's how you succeed faster. Well, we've reached the end of our explainer. Then I have one final challenge for you. Now that you know the truth, I want you to guess the actual, true foundation of a successful business. Have your answer ready in your head, and then your homework is to take this pop quiz to a friend on the playground and see if they know the truth. So what's the real foundation? 3, 2, 1. The true foundation is a mix of your calling, your absolute commitment, and an understanding of the ins and outs of running a business. That is the only real guarantee of success. So, my fellow playground players, now that you know there's no magic blood required, the field is totally wide open. Are you ready to start playing? What is the very first business tree you are going to plant today? Go out there, work hard, find your flock, and make it happen.